Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mind of Cy Marie. This is a solo episode, and I just want to say happy first day of spring to everyone out there. I hope that today really gets you guys kicked in the butt to enjoy getting outside and touching some grass and experiencing all of the new life and the rebirth as the return of the sun has come upon us finally. As most of you know, I am a spring birthday, and spring is a season that I love probably more than any. Um, I'm very, very fond of spring. So, given that, I wanted to talk about something today that I've talked about a little bit in some of my videos lately. I actually did a video yesterday kind of touching on the farm workers movement and what happened with and what happened with Cesar Chavez. And it's a really good it's a really good time for us to reflect on some things. And one of the things that I really want to talk about today is the currency of virtue and why your checkbook can't buy a conscience. Now, I've been in activism spaces for quite a while, and I have moved through many different roles in my tenure in doing that. And I have observed many things, and many of those things are relevant to those who are coming into activism and perhaps do not have the experience or the foreknowledge about these things. So, there is a distinct hollow ring to activism when it is bought rather than built. And I just want you guys to sit with that sentence for a minute. We see it constantly. The big creator with a privileged background and a deep pocket who suddenly decides that advocacy is their next aesthetic. I will say that some people truly are activated, that there are plenty of musicians, artists, bands, etc., who do get activated and are honestly genuine about this. But then there are those who do not. And it becomes very clear because the reality is this is an age-old situation. Actions will always speak louder than words, and one's colors will always bleed out to show what their character is eventually. It's just a matter of time. So, while they call it joining the cause, those of us on the ground recognize it for what it truly is: performative virtual signaling designed to feed an insatiable ego. And there's the myth that happens with the donation shield. There is a dangerous perception here that a high follower count and a few vanity tags on a donation receipt can act as a localized indulgence for a heinous character. But it doesn't. You can drop thousands of dollars into a cause. But if your private behavior is abusive, exclusionary, self serving, those good deeds are nothing more than vain rags draped over a shadow. Behavior and abusive actions override all vain activism, period. It doesn't matter how much good you might do for the surface of a movement if behind doors you are abusing activists and people who are part of that movement and using your position of power to denigrate them and make them feel lesser. You are an abuser if you do that. You cannot treat people like disposable stepping stones in private and then expect to be appraised as a saint in public. When a person's light is only turned on when the cameras are rolling or the credit tags are being generated, they aren't an activist. They're a brand manager. And there's a toll of the look at me tactic. True advocacy is centered in humble kindness and the elevation of the collective. Performative activism, however, is a look at me tactic that centers the donor as the hero of a story that they didn't even fucking write. How dare you? While these false people are busy chasing clout and receiving constant boosting for their financial contributions, the actual activists, the ones who are doing the heavy lifting without those vanity tags and who do not have the privilege or the monetary abundance that some of these other ones do, are left dealing with systemic mistreatment, being ignored or stepped over because they don't have a big creator status, emotional burnout, carrying the weight of the work while the performative savior causes them stress, depression, and a total lack of genuine support. Transactional support. Watching help only being extended to those who can offer a reciprocal boost in status. And like I said, true colors will always bleed through. You can try to buy a reputation, but you cannot buy integrity. No amount of clout chasing tags or strategic donations will ever cover the depth of a person who operates in darkness while screaming for admiration. If your activism is centered on how it elevates you, how it makes you look, and the praise you receive, then your reasons are not centered in goodness and joy, and you don't give a shit about the community or the collective. They are purely centered in narcissism. Most of us can see through that performance, to tell you the truth, especially those who are veterans in this. We can see the shadow. We can see the nasty reality behind the filtered advocacy. And we know that an honest activist doesn't need a receipt to prove they care. They show it in how they treat people standing right next to them in the fight. It shows up in their character and how they treat people. They look at everything. They don't presume that they are somehow better than anyone, or that they are the only one that should be centered in the conversation. I am really honestly sick of seeing this, especially when it comes from white creators who have been privileged, who have experiences with things that lead back to showing that they haven't really done any of the true shadow work that needs to be done. Because the reality is, with spiritual work especially, if you're a person out here doing advocacy and all it's about is what you get back on the tags, thank you, and gratitude posts, and the constant being in everyone else's face on the internet, but yet you haven't interviewed one single small creator activist, you haven't actually talked to any of the people who were involved and who are being abused by the systemic situations that you're observing and that you're aggregating. These kinds of things are not acceptable behaviors, and yet they continue to happen. And I'm a small creator, and I know that most of this probably won't be heard by the largest of the large. I sit here and I fight every day to do these things. I don't get paid for them. I have this Substack. I don't get paid for this. I have the podcasts. I don't get paid for them. I do all these things because I genuinely care, and I still find money to lend to mutual aid from the work that I do aside from that. When I ask for help or I make a GoFundMe, I get crickets. When my sons were on life support and I made a GoFundMe so that I could try to get assistance, I couldn't get more than $200 in donations. Yet some of these gigantic creators create a GoFundMe and they get thousands and thousands of dollars, and then they turn around and they do donate them to causes. And that's wonderful. But you know what would be really even greater? Was instead of you getting those clout chasing tags, you doing it anonymously and still being out there in the streets and still talking about these things and actually going and elevating smaller creators and finding people that are diamonds in the rough and elevating them so that they can be seen on your gigantic platform stage. These things are not acceptable, and yet they continue to occur. We platform and we elevate voices that we should not be. And as Bailey Sarian says, we need to get better idols. So if you notice that there's a creator that you've been looking up to, and you start to see that perhaps maybe things aren't in alignment with what you thought, you might want to back up a little bit and ask yourself if they're actually doing it for the right reasons, or if they're doing it because they like the audience and they're performing for them. Again, happy spring. I hope you guys enjoy your weekend and watch out for each other. There are snakes everywhere and they're looking to envenomate any of us. So when you're working in activism spaces, make sure that you are not attaching yourself to someone that is toxic and is going to be dragging the light of your spirit out of you while injecting toxicity and the venom of their own lack of substance. Because there's a lot of people who move into these spaces because they want to feed off of empathic people and they want the clout and the big reputation that goes along with being in front of everybody's eyes and the optics that go into that, because they want that attention for their own vain purposes. Energy vampires are everywhere. Narcissists are everywhere. And toxic people who do heinous, terrible things under the guise of it being good are everywhere.